This year is the 26th annual edition of the Smackoff, and I am really proud of that, if you couldn't tell. It's an event that was born back in 1995, and I'm proud of it not just in terms of its longevity, but the fact is, a quarter of a century in, it's as strong or stronger than it's ever been. To commemorate the Smackoff's quarter-century anniversary, let me now read an excerpt from a book called The Handoff. This book was written back in 2013. It's not going to take you very long to figure out who the author is. All right? Check this. I'm taking right from the book. Quote, Jim Rome is huge, and he has thousands of clones. That's what he calls the members of his radio audience who make up his hardcore listening base. He paints a picture of jobless losers and stoners living at home or in shabby basement apartments where they do nothing all day except geek out on video games and tune into his show, which he calls The Jungle. It continues, quote, recently, Rome has exploded onto the sports talk radio scene, outpacing Hacksaw and all the other hosts on the mighty 690. I listen to him every day. I'm hooked, but I'm not a clone. I have a job and a life and responsibilities, including my current most important position, third base for the Merrill Lynch softball team. Softball does not get me through the day. Sports talk radio does, and specifically Jim Rome. It goes on, and I quote, I call from work, juggling leads and thinking about my next call to Rome. When I'm ready, I call in. I exchange a few words with his producer, Joe Titino, and I wait on hold until Jim is ready to take my call. One time I insist the Knicks will go deep into the playoffs against the Bulls. When I finish, Rome laughs. He refers to me as JT the Brick from La Jolla. Brick being part of the Jungle Smack lexicon and Rome's term for the New York Knicks. When I make my next call to Rome a few days later, he introduces me simply as JT the Brick, and I am born. It goes on, and I quote, April 26th, 1995, Jim Rome gives me a way out. Rome announces that on Good Friday, he will devote his entire show to what he calls the Great American Smackoff, an invitation-only contest in which he will determine the best caller of the year. The winner will be crowned the King of Smack and will appear with Rome himself at 3 different tour stops. Over time, Rome's Smackoff will become the most popular feature in the history of sports talk radio. End quote. The author of the book, The Handoff, and the excerpt, which I just read, obviously, is JT the Brick. JT the Brick won the first ever Smackoff 25 years ago. Here's what his call from a quarter century ago sounded like.
Van Smack, what an honor to be a part of the first annual Great American Smackoff. The greatest city, the deepest tradition, and the best smack comes from New York and the bricks. When the earthquake hit, I didn't pick up the fish wrap to read about the damage. I looked to the box scores to see if the Knicks pulled out another gutty win. I have a passion to see Cal Ripken rupture a kidney this season than to see him break my beloved Lou Gehrig's record. Today is a celebration of smack. I compare my experience to when I pledged my fraternity back in college. For the first few months, I was a punk who had to wait on hold and pick and choose my spots to smack. Now I feel like the pledge master who gets to spank the new plebes on the butt while they say, thank you, JT the Brick. Can I please have another?
You want to talk about it first? Joining us on the line right now from his home in Las Vegas, Nevada, 25 years after he was on this same show making history, is JT the Brick. JT, brother, how the hell are you, JT?
Van Smack, good to be back again. It's been a while. Thrilled to be here, especially to be here during Smackoff week, which means more than every other week to me. Thanks for having me on.
My man, it's great to hear your voice on this show once again, JT. Now, you made history 25 years ago. You won the first ever Smackoff. You are making history again because this is your first time on the show as a guest and the first time you've called on the hotline since 95. Take me back. What do you remember about that first Smackoff?
Well, Jim, as you said, it was Good Friday, and I was a stockbroker at Merrill Lynch in La Jolla. And if you saw the movie Boiler Room or Wolf of Wall Street, that was my life at the time. And this was an opportunity to have a hobby on the side calling your show. So on that day, I woke up, and I went to Merrill Lynch in La Jolla, and it was closed. The stock market was closed. I walked in, I went up the elevator, I went to my office, and I cleared off the entire office, took everything off the desk except for a phone in the middle. I had a yellow legal pad with about 6 or 7 notes, bullet points, that would be jump in and jump out points. And I just waited. My heart started to pound. I knew it was an epic field. And I waited about an hour and 15 minutes until I called. And then I waited in line and knew I was ready. And at that moment, I knew that I had to deliver the best call I ever had to you, because guys were getting run. I was able to get the call out. If I rehearsed it, I rehearsed it possibly once or twice. But if I did that call 100 times, I never would have nailed it the way I did on that one time only. When I finished, I hung up the phone. I instantly knew I won. I knew I won. I got in the car. I went back to my condo in La Jolla, where the bricks were waiting, 20 of my guys popping bottles of beer, ready to roll, and just waiting for everybody to come in afterwards to see if I'd have a chance to win.
JT the Brick joining us on the program for the first time in a quarter of a century, reliving what it was like to win the inaugural Smackoff. JT, did you have any idea in that moment that your life was about to change forever?
No, Jim, and that's the key. My life's always been about fate. I get an opportunity, something happens. I wrote about it in my book. When one door opens, you go through that door. You don't hesitate. And at that point, I had no intention of being a radio host or anything else. And that opened up a door for me to get into radio, to buy time on Sunday night in L.A., to try to get into the business. And then my whole life changed. I had to walk away from being a stockbroker, which was a really good career at the time, and take a chance. My dad said, go for it. I got your back. And then I went on this journey that led me to Las Vegas and a 24-year career in radio, thanks to that call. I tell everybody still to this day, if I came in 2nd, 5th, 7th, everything changes. I don't meet my wife. I don't have the career I have. I don't have this life, which has been unbelievable because of the portal, which was the Smackoff that got me into sports talk radio.
I really appreciate you saying that, JT. That's really not entirely what it is. I mean, you had that grind, you had that effort, you had that ambition, you had a vision, you went after it. You were doing really well as a stockbroker. You were making a very good living. That was a big swing. You took a big chance. You put yourself out there, and you executed. But I appreciate what you say about the program. Now, despite having an amazing career of your own, and you still have your own show, I know you still listen to the program when you can. Can you share with those who are in the Smackoff this year, what do you think is different about the Smackoff today as compared to back in 95 when you won it all?
Great question. What's changed, I think, is, back then it wasn't full attack mode. People did not come in and just try to decapitate everybody and go after different regions and all of that. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I love it. It's unbelievable entertainment. But when I called in that day, my focus was on New York. I was the Brick out west. I was the Knicks fan. I was the Yankee fan. I felt like I was going to war every day in the jungle representing my New York teams. I couldn't get that fix going to a Padre game. I couldn't get that fix just lying around and running around doing my job. So when I started making my calls, it was about New York exclusively because I wanted to be at my best. And then when I went into the Smackoff, it was about the 1994 strike and everything that had to do with New York sports at the time, and then taking a little bit of a run. But it was a lot different. It was more about pure sports back in the day. And how ironic is it now that we have this upcoming Smackoff and there is no sports.
Right.
There's no sports at all, so I can't imagine what we're going to hear coming up.
JT the Break joining me for a few more moments. Now, JT, you and I will always be bonded by Smackoff 1, but 22 years after that, my current executive producer, Adam Hawk, happened to be your former executive producer at Fox Sports Radio. Was he the same ridiculous jackwagon working for you that he is now working for me? What was it like to work with the Sparrow?
Well, working with him was a unique time because we really bonded quickly together. And I think we did some really good radio, some of the best radio I've done. And, hey, Jim, forget about the Sparrow for a second. Stop and look behind him at Ike. Did you forget he was my also executive producer? You poached two guys from me,
Dude,
which I'm happy. You must have a big payroll over there. So I got connections through Ike and Adam Hawk, and they're both great guys. And Hawk's one of the best guys I've worked with, and I wish both those guys, and Alvin, when I guest hosted for you, which was a pleasure working with him on the board. He's one of the best I've ever seen.
JT the Brick joining me. So the book that I read from, The Handoff, has got 2 chapters devoted to the jungle. It's awesome. The book is also mainly about your experience with the late, great Andrew Ashwood. He's somebody that I work with closely, somebody we both think very highly of. For those who don't know, who was Andrew Ashwood and what did he mean to you?
Well, Andrew Ashwood, you meant a lot to him. And Andrew was a program director in San Antonio. He was named B.J. Hunter as a DJ, legendary back in the day, and he got into sports radio. And I think he's one of the best program directors of all time because he cared about his talent, he cared about people, and most importantly, he cared about the audience. He would go to the bar and buy the whole bar a round of shots. He brought you into San Antonio along with me and other hosts, and he was my friend. And then he became my boss. And we were best friends when he became my boss. We were so tight. And we had a falling out. You can imagine what it was like working for your friend. And why we had that falling out, because I was probably just too difficult to deal with at the time. He ended up getting married. And I thought I would be in his wedding party or his best man. And he didn't invite me to the wedding. And he came back, and I was crushed. And he invited me in his office one day, and he said, sit down. And it was on a Friday, and I thought, man, maybe I'm getting whacked. And he turned to me and he said, hey, I got cancer. I have real serious cancer. Let's talk about a plan on how to beat this. And we dropped everything. We never talked about our problem, what was bothering me or him at the time. And it was one of the biggest lessons of my life, called The Handoff, because he handed off all these lessons to me in life when he knew he was fighting probably an unwinnable battle at the time with cancer, and I was his chemo partner. And it changed my life, and it all connected. I never would have met Andrew if I never won the Smackoff.
Amazing.
And that's the connection. So part of my legacy through the Smackoff is also through Andrew Ashwood, who was a big fan of yours and gave me great years of my career working for someone I truly loved and helped me learn more about life than just sports talk radio.
JT the Brick won the inaugural Smackoff. His book is called The Handoff. It is a great read. You want to make sure you get it. JT, you've had an amazing career. I am truly proud of you. I'm proud to say that you won the first ever Smackoff. Great to get caught up very quickly. You're doing a national show for SiriusXM. If people want to find it, how do they do so?
Yeah, I'm on weeknights, Sunday to Thursday night on Mad Dog Sports Radio. I also host an evening drive show in Vegas every week, and working for the Raiders now, going on my 22nd year. And again, I want to thank everybody listening. I want to thank the jungle. I want to thank everyone for this opportunity in my life. And for all the contestants coming up, get your head in gear. If you don't win this contest, it doesn't matter. 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 19th means nothing. You win, you join this powerful fraternity, and I will buy you beers, and you will buy me chicken wings, and we will think of tour stops, and we will be the next chapter and legacy of the Smackoff. Win or go home a loser.
JT the Brick, my man. Great job, JT. So good to get caught up. Thanks for joining us. Your thoughts and reaction to that I said I had a surprise for you. We'll be right back. All right, quickly checking out the reaction. Edmund Ortiz tweets, JT the Brick on the Jim Rome Show? Wow. Drew in West LA tweets, I've been waiting for this moment for years. At Dr. Dre NoCal tweets, wow. JT the Brick and Stuck Nut. This is the best Wednesday of Smackoff week ever. I gotta stop right there. Hey, old man, I didn't know you were EP for JT. JT's like, yo, Rome, you poached 2 of my guys. Hell. Yeah, but only one of them matters. Just kidding, old man. You're welcome. Finally. He's like, thank you. Finally. At JNS12693 tweets, damn, Pimp in the Box. The only thing that would have made the interview with JT the Brick more epic is if he ended the call with an RSVP for Smackoff 26. John in New York tweets, what a spot with the Brick. What a week to be a clone. Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Ben Stanfield tweets, man, sign me up for the Smackoff. Bricks got me pumped up. Lyndall Scranton tweets, epic day of sports talk radio as JT the Brick calls into the Jim Rome Show as a guest. Hashtag Smackoff 2020. Let me stop you right there. I'll get into this a little bit later on when I get to the brass tacks. The hashtag is just going to be Smackoff. Hashtag Smackoff. Hashtag Smackoff. Not hashtag Smackoff 26. Not hashtag Smackoff 2020. Hashtag Smackoff. Keep it as simple as possible. Hashtag Smackoff. At Squirrel2 tweets, your interview with JT the Brick was outstanding. If he called on Friday, I would put him in a dead heat with the BIC and the Cowboy Nation. Nate in Appleton tweets, holy bleep. First the nut, now the brick. What a freaking Smackoff week. At D Wilcox 1968 tweets, JT destroyed it. Win or go home a loser. Well done, Brick. JJ Sport Mode tweets, how butthurt is Irate Craig? JT the Brick gets his book read over the jungle airwaves, and his gets read over a gas station toilet. Stucknut's in. Stucknut tweets, man, the Brick sounded nervous. Well done, Steve. You did great. Tom in Rochester, Minnesota writes, Jim, if only JT the Brick were to throw his hat into the Smackoff this Friday. This dude has still got it. Sure, he's a big name with a big game now, but that's what's needed to give the BIC a run for his money. Yeah, I said it. Tom in Rochester. Fair enough, but trust me and believe this. There are at least a half a dozen guys that are going to give the BIC a run for his money come Friday. Dustin in NorCal is in. Quote, wow, what a historic day in the jungle. The return of the legend, the Brick. Truly awesome to hear the Brick back in that setting that made him a legend. Keep up the great work, Fan Smack. Looking forward to Smackoff 26. I got a huge kick out of that. I can remember clearly, it's been 25 years, but I can remember those days. I mean, we all remember our formative years. This is a great time to be in the jungle. The Smackoff right now is as strong as it's ever been. It just is. But that was a great, great time. And I remember the Brick. And I remember when the Brick exploded onto the scene as a caller. I remember that first Smackoff. I remember him winning that first Smackoff. I remember him parlaying that into a radio gig. I don't know if you picked up on this, but he mentioned he had to buy radio time when he first got started. I remember that too. It wasn't like somebody was waiting for him. He won the Smackoff and said, hey, Brick, here it is. Here's a big-time radio contract for you. Sign right here. Again, he gave up a really well-paying job. He purchased time to get on the air at a radio station, and he made it happen. He also mentioned, I brought up and he talked about Andrew Ashwood. If you know the business and you know our history, you know that name as well. He was really critical to both of us. Andrew Ashwood was program director in San Antonio, where the corporate headquarters were for the company I work for. And at that time, when it was really important for somebody to believe in me, and in fact, JT the Brick, you needed people like that. You needed powerful programmers like Andrew Ashwood to put themselves out on a line and say, yeah, that's my guy. That's my show. I believe in that guy. And if I bring him in and I take some heat, I'm going to stand by that guy. Andrew Ashwood was that guy. He was really important, really critical. So I'm glad that the Brick and I had that conversation about him. Adam Hawk. Pick him up real quick. Dude, your head's got to be spinning. Like, I know I'm your idol. I know you think extremely highly of JT the Brick. You work for me. You work for him. You're the all-time radio geek / dork. You know the history of this program. You know the history of his program. How'd that feel?
That was awesome. That was really, really cool to hear. And yeah, I am a radio geek and a radio dork. It's why I'm in this business. I grew up listening to AM radio and knew 10 years ago that I wanted to do it. And that's all I've been doing for 10 years. So to hear the Smackoff 1 winner talk to the host of the Smackoff, a Hall of Famer, and have that moment just happen on our airwaves in 2020 was really cool. So when a guy like Drew in West LA tweets in that he's been waiting for this moment for years, I mean, that perfectly encapsulates how I feel about it as well. That was really awesome. I've wanted to hear that for a long time.
Use your words, Adam.
That was great.
That was a big word. Dude, I didn't know that Rit worked for JT the Brick. Did you?
I did.
Hey,
Yes.
Alvin, did you work for the Brick too? No, Alvin didn't. I didn't know that. Is that how Rick got in the door here?
I don't know
How did Rick
got
get in the door here, and what does he do now that he is here? Finally.
He books a wonderful podcast.
He eats a lot of sugar, finally.
Yes, he does. He's a medical miracle.
He does book a hell of a podcast, dude.
Game on.
The old man does book a great podcast. Give him that.
And he's good at playing horse by himself, too.
That's an H.
Mark it down.
Mark it down. All right, Adam, good job. Well done. Adam Hawk. No, I'm not playing. I really didn't know that Rit worked for JT the Brick. It's amazing. How about you, big head James Kelly? Did you work for the Brick too? JT was great. He's like, yo, man, you know you poached 2 of my guys. I thought it was only 1. And I didn't think you'd miss Hawk. Some more reaction. S. Gassman tweets, the Super Bowl of sports talk shows. Smackoff is set for Friday. DVR is set. If the call from the Brick is any indication of what's to come, this Friday is going to be epic. It is, and it will. At Rank Sinatra tweets, what's next? Kerwin in Riverside gonna reappear? Damn, I hope so. That'd be great. Charlie in Goochland is in. Best hour of the jungle that I have heard outside of a Smackoff in years.